Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of City Council, staff, and attendees. Back in January of 2022, the Union City Police Department adopted a new strategic 5-year plan. The plan emphasized accountability, transparency, and building relationships with the community. To accomplish these goals, it was paramount for us to establish a good communication plan to ensure we keep our community abreast of changing times in public safety in Union City. And as part of that commitment, we've created our first in-depth annual report. Tonight, I'm here to provide a summary of that report, but the full report can be viewed on our website through the transparency portal. Next slide, please. So I want to go over some crime statistics with you first. These are 2022 Part A crimes against persons and property. In 2022, we had 3 homicides, 11 rapes, 178 assaults with a deadly weapon, 96 robberies, 261 burglaries, 1,597 thefts, 513 motor vehicle thefts, and 20 arsons. Next slide, please. A very common concern that's been shared, it was shared this evening, it's been shared with us in the community, is that crime is on the rise. And what you're looking at here is a Part A crimes, that's crimes against persons and property we just discussed, 5-year chart. You can see since 2018, pre-pandemic, that Part A serious crimes has increased every year. About 4% in 2018, then 6%, 3%, the largest being the 21% increase that we most recently saw. And that was between 2021 and 2022. It's important, though, to understand that it's more complex than a simple percentage increase in that jump, because that was the first year, 2021 to 2022, that we started calculating crime statistics differently. Prior to that, we were calculating them through the Unified Crime Reports, UCR. Now we're doing it through NIBRS, which is a National Incident-Based Reporting System, and it's important to understand the difference. The difference is NIBRS counts not only the most serious crime, but other associated crimes in a single incident. UCR, the Unified Crime Reports, would only capture the most serious incident before. So it's normal that we did see an uptick. It's just difficult to really understand the significance of it because you have 2 reporting types combined in 21-22. Next slide. To help understand, though, that there is a trajectory upwards with crime, I wanted to highlight motor vehicle theft for the last 5 years. Again, this is a Part A crime, but in my opinion, I think it's one of the best indicators of crime trends. Typically, and unfortunately, a lot of crimes go unreported. Larcenies, burglaries, robberies, other crimes do go unreported. However, motor vehicle theft is pretty much reported every single time. And it's reported every time because it's easily identifiable. You have a license plate of VIN, people need their vehicle. People that own the car could be held liable criminally and civilly for that car if it's used in a crime. So I like to look at motor vehicle theft as a pretty solid indicator of crime. And this is concerning because when you look at 2018 till now, we have a 116% increase in thefts. We were averaging around 230 cars stolen in 2018, 2019, and then you see now in 2022, we are all the way up to 513 cars stolen. I didn't depict it in the slides, but other Part A crimes also increased in this time period, like robbery went up 17%, burglary was up 63%, and larceny and theft were up 24%. Next slide. This is our service contacts and reports taken. I think that increase you see in 2022 is reflective of the crime that we saw increase. Service contacts went up 16%, and police reports went up 15% in 2022. Next slide. One of our top community complaints or concerns is traffic safety. We often are asked to conduct traffic enforcement for speed, stop signs, or other issues. At UCPD, we use data for our enforcement efforts. So we look at collision data, date, time, location. We look at community complaints, traffic trailer reports, to ensure that we're focused on areas that pose the highest safety risk to the community. With that being said, in 2022, we made almost about 3,000 traffic stops. We issued 3,451 violations. On average, we investigated about 600 traffic collisions, and thankfully we had 0 traffic-related deaths in 2022, and we made about 50 DUI arrests. Next slide. This is data on mental health calls for service. These numbers are significant because this is often a very popular topic of discussion in police organizations. In 2022, we responded to 233 emergency mental health calls for service. 97% of those were resolved with the subject being transported to a hospital for care without any use of force. So of the 233 calls we responded to, only 3% resulted in a controlled level of force, resulting in no injuries to anybody we used force on. I think this level of success is not coincidence. I think it's reflective of our training, policy, and some excellent work by our officers, time, distance, de-escalation, to get those types of results. Because remember, and I think you could see it might be a little tough to see, this includes almost 30 of these mental health calls where the individual is armed, firearm, knife, bat. So even in those cases, only 3% resulted in a force. I do attribute a lot of that to, we have a standard at Union City Police Department where all our officers receive CIT training. It's a crisis intervention training. It's not a mandated course in the state, but it's a mandated course in our department. And we do it because we feel if we give our folks the tools to deal with these types of situations, you can get these types of positive outcomes. Next slide, please. Okay, use of force. Use of force often leads in discussions with public safety and policing, and I think a lot of it's due to the improper or illegal use of force that gets highlighted across the nation, and people have a tendency to reflect that on the police department that serves their community. To put it in perspective, though, use of force incidents in Union City occur less than 0.5% of our contacts. So to be exact, our use of force rate is 0.38% of documented contacts. Again, this is another, I really got to recognize our officers on restraint, training, and de-escalation. This 0.38% rate of use of force includes not only traffic stops, pedestrian stops, it includes calls of domestic violence, assault with a deadly weapon, shooting, stabbings, all the different types of calls we deal with. Use of force, 0.38% of our contacts. Also in 2022, we didn't have any officer-involved shootings and there was no in-custody deaths. Next slide. Our professional standards unit, we refer to it as PSU, investigated 2 citizen complaints. Just to stop there for a quick second, almost 40,000 contacts and 2 citizen complaints out of 40,000. We did 2 internal complaints as well. Both of those investigations, or I should say all 4 of those investigations, involved 10 employees in the department. 7 of the findings were unfounded, meaning that the investigation conclusively proved the act or acts complained did not occur or the individual named in the complaint wasn't involved in the alleged action. 1 finding was sustained, meaning the investigation disclosed there was enough evidence to conclusively prove the allegation made in the complaint did occur. And 2 findings were exonerated, meaning the act or acts of the employee which formed the complaint did occur. However, the actions were justified and lawful. I will mention, too, that we've had over the years a significant decrease in the amount of complaints that we receive. I think our folks do a fantastic job. I also think technology is amazing. You know, from the time a person makes a call into our dispatch center, it's recorded. From the time it's dispatched to the officers, it's recorded. When the officers receive it, we have GPS in the vehicles that track their time, distance, and when they arrive. We have cameras in our cars, cameras on our officers. So oftentimes the complaints we receive, we can really look into every detail of that complaint, and that's ultimately drastically decreased the number of complaints we receive. Next slide, please. Demographics, we are a very young department. About half our department has less than 5 years. 75% of our department has less than 15 years. 70% of our department is male and 30% is female. It's great to see almost 60%, I think we're 59% of our department has a college degree, which is outstanding because people have either obtained a college degree and then we were able to hire them, or they've obtained a degree once hired at the police department, which we encourage education, advanced education in this profession. With regard to ethnicity, in our department, 20% of our staff are Asian in comparison to 53% in the community. 42% of our staff are Hispanic in comparison to 19% in the community. 33% of our staff are white in comparison to 15% of the community. And 5% of our staff are African American versus 4% in the community. Next slide, please. So I was debating whether or not I should share this information, and then I said, you know, I think it's good information for everybody to have. One of the greatest challenges we face in policing today is recruitment and retention. It is a significant concern. There's studies that have shown interest in the profession of law enforcement has dropped almost 80%. And this is over the last 3 to 4 years. So that means all police agencies are competing for 20% of the applicants that used to exist. We did this survey internally. It's an anonymous survey that we did to try and determine the morale of our organization and to get the feedback of the people that serve our community. And at Union City PD, we're not immune to the staffing challenges. I will say that we have vacancies in investigations and in traffic. We're still trying to stand up our community policing unit. So hiring is still a challenge. However, we do have 11 candidates in field training or in the academy, which means we're making great progress, which I'm happy of. But the information I'm sharing here really reflects morale, and I think it reflects a special department that we have. 96% of our employees agree or strongly agree that service from the heart is crucial to building relationships with the community. Service from the heart is a core philosophy we have in the police department that, yeah, a badge might give you authority, but the real power lies beneath the badge. It's your heart, serving people with care, compassion, and empathy. For 96% of our organization to believe in what they're doing and the direction of the organization is very special in today's day. 92% of our employees are proud or extremely proud to be a member of UCPD, again, a morale component. 88% of our employees agree or strongly agree UCPD is dedicated to professional development. Our employees are one of our top priorities. Investment in them and their futures is key, and this is coming back in the survey. And 87% of our employees agree or strongly agree that they're valued at UCPD. Again, they're one of our top priorities. Next slide, please. This is an interesting bit of information I just wanted to share. There's 8 departments in our region that are similar sized, community and staffing. These departments are 24/7 full-service police departments, very similar to Union City. What we did is we calculated our total police budget and divided it by the number of our residents. And we did that because we wanted to establish a cost per resident per year for police services. The highest cost police department was $622 per resident per year. The average cost is $491 per resident per year for police services. The lowest cost police department was $416 per resident per year. Union City PD is currently the lowest cost police department of the 8 agencies. If we were budgeted at the average cost, our budget would go up $5.5 million towards policing services in the community. And it's not, I understand there's limitations. It's not that I'm asking that. It's just I'm really recognizing the men and women for the excellent job they do for the lowest price of police services of these comparable agencies. And my last slide here is we do have a 5-year strategic plan that I mentioned. However, I think sometimes it's good to look at things at a smaller scale. And this is over the next 12 months to roughly 18 months, a few key areas that we're focusing on in the police department. The first is technology and training. We're moving in the direction to secure automated license plate reader cameras for 20 locations in Union City. This is technology a lot of agencies have in our area. We feel it's very beneficial for effective, efficient, intelligence-led policing. I mentioned the data about stolen vehicles. Well, automated license plate readers are huge for not only identifying but recovering these vehicles when they're in our community. And we also feel with the challenges of staffing, having technology like this, it provides us much more advanced abilities to solve crimes after they've occurred. The second one is the Public Safety Working Group. I'm partnering with Pastor Jerome Brown. He and I are co-chairing a group of residents to get a better understanding of the desires and wishes of those we serve. And we are establishing kind of roles, responsibilities, and building up the momentum, but the goal is to really understand the interests of those who live, work, and visit our community. The next one is team policing. We currently have a patrol deployment schedule where employees have staggered work schedules. We have staggered their schedules to maximize coverage with limited staffing. The results are ultimately different employees work together with different supervisors each day, but we're able to stretch out the work week. But coming in July of this year, we'll be moving towards a team schedule, which I'm very excited about because with these new hires that we're bringing on, it's going to give us the ability to have a supervisor with a core group of individuals, officers. And this is important because it supports not only development and supervision, but accountability, consistency, understanding of team abilities and limitations. So that will be occurring this summer. And then the last one, Captain Victor Durden's been running this one. He established it and is pushing forward, which I'm excited about, is district policing. I've been here for about 25 years, and over the 25 years I've been here, we've policed on two beats, east side and west side, which has worked. However, what we're finding is that if we break down those two larger beats into smaller districts, we could have a better relationship with the community. So we're going to have 4 districts. Those districts will have the same geographic footprint as the district election maps, and there'll be a commander assigned to each. So what we're trying to do is build relationships and provide the services that are needed for the smaller areas in Union City versus the larger areas that we were serving in the past. And then the last point I wanted to mention was regarding, it says purpose-driven policing, progress through relationships and trust. Our department moving forward, we understand I could come up here and say, hey, we wrote 10,000 citations last year and give a bunch of numbers, but if the policing we're doing isn't the policing our community wants, I feel like we're failing our mission. So what a lot of this is about purpose-driven policing, ensuring that what we're doing is in alignment with the desires and wishes of those we serve. So whether it be team policing, district policing, public safety working groups, technology, a lot of it is intended to have a closer relationship with the community to ensure we're tailoring our services to, again, their wishes and desires. This, again, is an information report. It's a summary of the full report, which was on the website, but I'm happy to take any questions or provide more detail if you like. Thank you.
Great report, and I can tell how excited you are about it just by your energy in giving the report. So
thank you. It was a lot of work. We have not put together a full annual report like this for 20 years. So it's the first time we've done it since early 2000.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we're excited to get it done.
I remember that one.
Yeah, you would have, actually.
Any case, let's see what comments we have here. Councilmember Patino.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I really like that slide where slide number 12 stating how, you know, we are the lowest cost per resident for our police force. Because it's worth noting that right now, even though our officers are not the highest paid, we don't have the retention problems that a lot of other departments are having. We're actually able to recruit when other departments can't. We're still, you know, we still need to do a lot more, but we're not having a lot of the problems that other departments are, and I think it's because of your leadership, the residents that have honored our officers instead of degraded them. So I think that's really good. On the CIT part, I'm really glad to hear what you've been doing there, because I remember when I was on the Human Relations Commission, Commissioner William Smith and myself had pushed, had really suggested that our officers all get trained in that, and I'm glad to hear that that's happened, and it's proof right there in your answers to these 5150 calls. You know, I know that right now, because of mandates from Sacramento, and their ultimate wisdom when it comes to fighting crime, that your hands are kind of tied on a lot of these things, like with thefts. Before, I remember back when I was, you know, working, second petty theft, you know, well, first of all, it was, I think, $450 back then. But your second petty theft was a wobbler. It could be charged as a felony. Now it can't. Yeah, now it's, the threshold is now $900, and you could commit multiple petty thefts and still a misdemeanor. And, those of us, well, I'm on the board of directors for Cal Cities. We push to, ask for minor adjustments to Prop 47 to, have some deterrence when it comes to theft. And, we got pushback at the state level, and it's been put on hold. And we were only asking for minor adjustments to make your jobs easier, our residents more safer, and to stop this recidivism over and over, because there doesn't seem to be any consequence for these people that are stealing left and right. A lot of them, they get arrested, and they have 3 other notices to appear they haven't even shown up for. So, you know, how often do you see that the people you're arresting still haven't even resolved or adjudicated their other cases, when our officers come into contact with them?
We are seeing that more consistent now than I recall in the past, where we arrest somebody and, you know, they're back out into the community relatively soon. The theft with a prior, the drug charges that we used to take people to jail for, we no longer do that. They're issued citations. And for the officers, it's challenging too. It's very frustrating, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's violent. So if there's an individual where we've had cases of violence in Union City where the individual has been arrested upwards of 10 times and they're back in our community creating violence, that is a very challenging thing for the men and women in the police department. I absolutely do support getting people transitioned from incarceration back onto the street and into communities, but I think it needs to be done in a reasonable and responsible way. If somebody needs medication, if somebody needs counseling, if somebody needs some form of help, it should be done, in my opinion, after repeat offenses in a secured environment versus back out on the street. I often will describe to people when they ask me questions about crime and recidivism, it's like an iceberg. You know, the top of the iceberg above the waterline is the police department. That's what people see. But really, the majority of that iceberg is below the waterline, and that's the criminal justice system. That's legislation. That's district attorney's office. That's probation. That's parole. That's, you know, the whole gamut. So it's much more complicated when you look at rising crime than just police make more arrests. It's a much more complex issue than just that.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, you're correct, because you could arrest, your officers can arrest people all day, but if they don't get prosecuted or the offenses don't have repercussions where they actually have to, there's a sentence there, then it's all in vain. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Saki Kihara, questions, comments?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this report, and then also I read the full report, and yeah, I didn't realize it had been that long since the last one, but I appreciate all the effort that went into it. Can you go back about 3 slides to the demographics slide? I had a question about the years of service. So, it was like...
I think if you go in the other direction. Yes. Keep going. Going, almost there. Keep it right there.
There we go, yeah. So this years of service portion, I was wondering, you know, first of all, just benchmarking relative to other departments, relative to Union City in the past, or UCPD in the past, just your sense of how we compare. Are we more junior? Are we weighted more, you know, in any direction? Is this pretty normal? And then if it is different, if you have any concerns or opportunities either way with that distribution, just because, you know, I think we have a lot of positive signs across other parts of the report in terms of results, but also, you know, the employee engagement survey, things like that. And I've heard anecdotally from you and others that, you know, recruiting, morale, you know, like we're doing pretty well there within the context of the broader environment that you described. And so I'm just wondering, you know, to my, and you mentioned how, you know, most of the, or almost half of the force is 0 to 5 years. Is that abnormal? Is that normal? And yeah, what you think about that?
It's a great question. When I began, I would say it was flipped, that the majority of the department was senior, and there was just a few of us that were younger. I think there's a lot of great opportunity with having a young department. I think the people that the officers we're hiring today just have great minds, great hearts. They're getting in it for the right reasons because they're getting into it knowing the challenges right out of the get-go of the profession. So I think the opportunity is that you have young people with the right intentions getting into the profession, and then it's just our responsibility to ensure that we invest in them, to give them all the tools, because there's increased liability and exposure with having less experience out on the field. So we have a master training plan where we try and, last year, I want to say our training hours were over 20,000 hours, and our department was very, very high. A lot of it was because of COVID, and then part of it was that they're young officers. So that's the opportunity. They're young, they have great intentions. We just got to invest in the training. That's kind of the risk part, and that's why we're going to team policing, is we want to have just a little bit additional oversight, mentoring. We have a mentoring program with our FTOs. So I like our makeup. I think it's good. It's probably consistent with a lot of police departments right now. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of turnover with people either getting out of the business, you know, retiring, things of that nature. So that part of it's relatively consistent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Vice Mayor Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Chief, I wanted to bring it to your attention that I remember back in 2021, 2022, there was so many abandoned vehicles on the street, and we made a great progress. As far as I remember, on Allen Way in Union City, there was like 27 vehicles without that tag. It took us like 6 months to remove all the vehicles, and many phone calls to our city manager on Mission Boulevard as well. There was so many vehicles between the Appian Way and the King Avenue along Mission Boulevard. So, you know, we made a great progress. There's still some hot spot like a Contempo neighboring or Contempo Park. You know, that needs to be cleaned up as well. But, I mean, I have to admit that we did a wonderful job also in the industrial area. There were so many motor homes, and, you know, they were putting the sofas out and having the bulldogs out there zooming around. So I think we made a great progress on that aspect. I just wanted to have another question on the, you created a gun violence initiative based on the crime data and analytic. Do you have any success with that? Just want to ask you.
Yes, we had a big boost in pulling illegal firearms off the street. Our officers have done a tremendous job doing proactive enforcement, but data-driven proactive enforcement. So I would say when I started, when we had a crime problem or an issue, we went out with good intentions and did a ton of enforcement, but a lot of innocent people got caught up in traffic stops and searches and things of that nature. And what we try and do now is obtain more data, more intelligence, and try and identify the individuals selling the firearms, you know, distributing the firearms, possessing the firearms, and then collecting that way. We pulled, I think, 88 firearms off the street, close to 90 in our community, which is a lot. 70%, the majority of the guns are ghost guns or 80%ers, meaning these are guns that people order without serial numbers, and then they do a couple of modifications. The 80% means 80% assembled. They do 20% of the work, and they have a firearm without a serial number. So that's been effective. We've been giving gun locks out for free because obviously unsecured weapons in a home can be just as dangerous as an illegal firearm on the street. So yeah, I think a lot of what we put into place has been very effective. And again, we are very blessed to have incredible men and women that go out there and they put everything on the line to get these firearms. So I attribute a lot of the success, all the success really to their efforts on the street.
Thank you. Yeah, I see they're making a huge progress out there. The other question I have about the theft, about the vehicle theft, and especially in Union Landing, you think this is a local, they're doing this, or are they coming out of town or somewhere, other cities, to doing all the theft? What are the steps we can take to minimize this? I mean, that's what's driving this data up, this theft. And I heard on the news that it's very easy to steal a Hyundai and a Kia vehicles. All you have to just have your phone and you're ready to go. You can open up the door anytime and you get in there and go. So it's not like, just like a Tesla. You get your phone there and you're good to go. So is that driving this theft up on those cars in particular?
A lot of the patterns that we see are consistent in other organizations in the region, especially in the areas of thefts and things of that nature. The way we respond to crime, motor vehicle thefts or anything in general, is 3 steps. It's data, it's strategy, it's collaboration. The data is the intelligence-led, trying to understand when we get these cars or find these cars, are they being dumped into certain areas at a certain type? Are they stripping the cars? And then using the data to direct enforcement, put out surveillance, establish strategy to reduce. And then we collaborate, like the initiative letter that went out to the council, that's a form of collaboration of communicating with our residents to say, hey, we need help. We've had a lot of shootings, an increase of that. We'll reach out to ATF, FBI, work out with federal partners. So the crime itself is not specific to Union City. I think it's a combination of people in our community and outside. But the response to all increases of crime will always follow, at least while I'm here, the data, strategy, and collaboration of addressing it to the best of our ability. And then remember, at the end of the day, we're the tip of the iceberg, so we'll do our part and we'll take the people off the street. What ends up happening after that is a little bit out of our control.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
And Councilmember Wong, any questions or comments for the chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I'm very appreciated the police department, and they did a wonderful job, and also the presentation I like it very much. And just like they said already, I want just to save some time. And I have a couple of the questions I'll ask you. The number one, I was especially want to understand the crime rates is increasing, and that's not just the Union City. When you particularly using the vehicle thief, are those the vehicle thief include the people steal the wear tire and catalytic converters? Are those all included, or just the vehicle, complete vehicles?
That's a good question. Those are different. So if somebody goes and steals a catalytic converter, that would be under the larceny theft section, versus if they steal a car, they take the entire car and drive it away, that will be just for the motor vehicle theft. So those are separate. The 1,500 number under larceny theft would include the catalytic converters.
Include, okay, I see. Okay, and the other things, and I just want to ask, and you guys, the police department did a wonderful job last year, and for the July 4th fireworks. Now it's end of April, and very soon we're July 4th. And do we have some kind of upgrade? What we will do this year? I know you guys did wonderful, but I mean, there's a first time, and the people will see the police car coming and stopped. And so, you guys have any updates? Yeah.
Yes. I think we learned some good lessons last year, and so we're going to make some adjustments this year. And I think the way that we're going to go about enforcement, we'll always start with the education up to, prior. We want voluntary compliance, ideally. But once it comes to enforcement, we're going to be having more unmarked vehicles out and about, more plainclothes officers out and about, because taking marked cars into the neighborhoods for the enforcement is tough. And with the ordinance that we now have, we have the ability to on-view it, issue the citation to the homeowner without having to make contact.
Okay.
So we can drive up in an unmarked car, videotape fireworks going off from the property of a home, issue the citation, and a few days later, the residents are going to receive a fine for that violation. We're able to do it without having to make contact. Now, obviously, if their actions are dangerous, they're a community safety issue, and it's continuing, then we'll go out and make a contact and address it that way. But for the ones that shoot, you know, there's a million people that shoot up and everybody runs, we could sit, we could observe, we could surveil, we could record, and then we could issue administrative citations. So I think the effectiveness of our enforcement this year is going to be much better than last year.
Okay, okay. I would suggest we'll continue to do the educations, and we are not just the purpose to get a call to them, and the purpose want to be the public safety. If we can, the police department and with the cities, so we can have a more newsletter, more educations, and that'll be great too.
Absolutely.
And thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, so my question is, we know what our crimes are now. And I just had this on Sunday. I was in a store and somebody said, "Hey, you're the mayor. What are you going to do about shoplifting?" And I chuckled and I said, "Well, it's not just Union City, of course. It's everywhere where we're having these problems. But we know the crime is out there. So that's the question to you. What are we going to do about it? We're in the process of hiring more officers. So with more officers, which crimes would you envision being reduced, if any?"
First and foremost, violent crime, crimes against persons, people that are being robbed, violent assaults with firearms is going to be our primary focus. The thefts, and especially thefts from stores, are a tough one, because there are businesses that have corporate policies that they want no prosecution. So for officers, we can't, if store A has somebody coming in and stealing and an officer on-views it, and we go and attempt to make an arrest and we use force, and the store goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I want nothing done." Well, we've had that happen here in Union City, and we paid $1 million. So the challenge is, if the store doesn't want anything done and they say they can take it, we really can't do anything with it, because it's their property, and they have to tell us we want prosecution. So that's challenging for us, because we want to serve our community, the needs of the community. And if a store tells us, "Hey, we don't want you to do anything," then we're going to respect that, because it's their property. We'll still patrol, we'll be visible, we'll try and prevent through different types of foot patrol, vehicle patrol, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, we want to improve overall quality of life for the community. Street robberies, things of that nature, totally unacceptable, and we'll stay focused on crimes against persons first and foremost. I've actually seen a couple cases of late, which I don't remember seeing before, where people's cars get stolen and they say, "We don't want anything done." Wow. So, okay, we'll put it in the system, we'll try and locate your vehicle, but when the car doesn't stop, they don't pull over, they take off. We don't do anything either way in that case, but our hands are tied, because if they don't want anything done, anything we do that results in force, injury, things of that nature, it opens the city up to liability. So we just have to be very cautious with that.
Excellent answer, thank you. And I appreciate the presentation. I know we all do, because there's so much criticism against police departments, but you're doing everything right to take the perceptions of other communities where they don't have the stellar force that we do. So thank you for doing everything you are, and the rest of the troops as well.
Oh, my pleasure. And honestly, on behalf of the whole police department, I want to thank you, Mayor, whole council, Joan, our city manager, and our community, because it all starts with, it's a team effort. Everybody's involved, and I think when you have a strong mayor, council, city manager, and a community that's supportive, as I know Councilmember Patino just mentioned, everything comes together. So, we appreciate it. We're blessed to work here, and we'll continue to do the best we can for you.
Okay.